Hi, this is Vicki with craftingforfun.blogspot.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make this card box. This box is 2 inches deep, it has a removable lid, and it will easily hold 6 to 8 standard A2 size cards along with their envelopes. The box and the base are created using 2 sheets of heavy-duty cardstock, and then you'll use additional pattern paper and scraps of paper to create the embellishments to decorate your box with. So let's get started. The base of the box is created using a piece of cardstock measuring 8.5 by 10.5. You score that cardstock at 2 inches on each side, so you'll have a total of 4 score marks. After you score your cardstock, I'm going to set this piece aside. After you score your cardstock, what you're going to want to do is to take your scissors and cut diagonally from one score line to the other on each of the corners. I am doing this to reduce the amount of bulk when I fold my box together, and it makes for a more finished and uniform appearance on the inside of the box. I'm going to get rid of those scraps. Then I'm going to turn this over. I have already applied sticky strip to each of the triangular shaped sections on the corners of my box. What I want to do next is take my bone folder and make sure that I burnish along each of my folded lines very well. I'm going to turn my box over and do the same thing on the other side. Now, before I start taping my box together, I want to make sure that my box is facing so that my tape pieces are facing downwards. And then I want to take my scissors. I'm going to actually use my paper snips for this, and I'm going to cut on along the long side, the 10-inch side of my paper. I'm going to cut from the outside to the first score line. I'm going to turn my paper around, and along the other long edge of my paper I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to lay my box down. I'm going to turn my flaps over, remove the sticky strip, and I'm going to fold the sides up, making sure to align the edges carefully, and I'm going to create my box shape. Oops. This box is really economical, and it makes a really cute gift. You can fill it with stationery or cards or other gifts, and it makes a really pretty presentation. For my project, I am using Stampin' Up! Cardstock. The color of the cardstock is chocolate chip, and the top of the box is going to be made using rose red cardstock, also by Stampin' Up! So, this is the base of my box. I'm going to set that aside. For the lid of my box, I'm going to need a piece of cardstock measuring 6 5/8 by 8 1/8. This piece of the box is scored at 1 inch on all sides. I'm going to set that one aside. And again, you'll need to cut your corners diagonally at each corner, and then along the long side of the box you're going to want to cut from the outside into the first score line. Again, I've applied sticky strip to the corner, and to assemble my box I'm laying it so the sticky strip side is facing down, so that when I flip it up it'll be oriented in the right direction. And the hardest part of this process is making sure that the backing for the sticky strip doesn't stick to your fingers. So again, the box lid is constructed. I'm going to fit the lid on the box. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside, and now I'm going to show you how I decorated the top of the box. To decorate the top of the box, I used a piece of patterned cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I used a piece of chocolate chip cardstock, the same color as my base, that measures 4.5 by 5 3/4. I'm going to adhere those together. Okay, and I'm going to take a length of chocolate chip colored ribbon. This is chocolate chip grosgrain ribbon, and I'm going to tie a flat bow near the bottom of my layer. Make sure that's nice and flat, and trim my tails. And I'm going to adjust my ribbon so that my bow is more centered, and fiddle with my tails a little bit to get the look that I want. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now, for the sentiment, I have used the Stampin' Up! Stamp set, well scripted, on a piece of scrap paper. I stamped the Love You Much sentiment, and I punched it out with an EK Success label punch. And this is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere that to the front of my box piece. Making sure it's kind of straight. There we go. Now, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and actually adhere it to my box, because by experience I have learned that my flower that I'm going to add is quite dimensional, and it is difficult to adhere to the box with the flower already attached to the front piece. So this piece goes right on the front of the box, and you center it from side to side and top to bottom. There you go. So I'm going to set that aside. Now, to create the flower that is on the front of my box, I used the Stampin' Up! Fun Flowers die. I cut out 4 pieces. I cut 2 of the medium-sized flowers and 2 of the smallest flowers. In order to make my flower look more dimensional, what I have done is I have simply folded between the layers of each flower, and I went around about twice. And then I set that one aside. Did the same thing with the next one. Now I'm going to take the 2 flowers that are the same, 2 flower layers that are the same size, and layer them on top of each other. And I used a Stampin' Dimensional or piece of foam tape between the layers, and I slightly offset them so that the point on the bottom flower is centered between the 2 petals of the layer on top of it. For the next layers, I'm using the small flower. I'm going to just bend the petals inward, and there will be a portion in the center that's about the size of a nickel, and that's what I want. So I'm going to do that for my second flower. And then I'm going to, again, use a Stampin' Dimensional or a piece of foam tape and actually layer those together so that they're slightly offset. And then I'm going to glue that in the center of my other flower. Again, you could use foam tape or Stampin' Dimensionals to do that as well. So what you'll end up with is a flower that looks something like this. It has quite a bit of dimension. And then I took an ordinary button and I tied a piece of twine, jute twine, through the holes, and I just put a little bit of foam tape on the back, and I'm going to apply that right to the center of my flower, and then I'll bring my box back and I'm going to attach that to the top of my box. Okay, now I want to add some leaves to my flower. So what I did was I punched 2 of the 5-petal flowers with the Stampin' Up! 5-petal flower punch out of an old olive colored cardstock. I applied a little bit of dimensional to the back. I also have some dimensional pieces on the back of my flower just to prop it up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and position that. I like about 2 or 3 of the petals of the 5-pointed flower to show out. And then I have another one here, and I'm just going to tuck it underneath. If you enjoyed today's project, please check out my blog, craftingforfun.blogspot.com, for additional projects. Happy stamping!